intertwine. I can pop a year, but I don't need it though. I'm in a job. Look, man, listen. Tesla in the pandemic.
All right, let me get us on Facebook real quick.
Man, listen, what you're going through isn't permanent. It's a transition. You a superstar in your own film. It's fan fiction. Hey, I just got the Tesla in the pandemic. Hey, I know what I want. I got the tunnel vision. Double up and flip it. Start another business. Meditate daily or else I get the
Zoom is doing some extra stuff today.
Overthinking nights when I twist and flip in the bed and my Twitter feed turns into little voices in my head. Like, why is it so hard to see the positive instead?
Hey, all right, let me stop this because I don't own this.
Praying for my dog, hope he suck a duck or fed. Pray for my mama body, hope they cure with the med. The plague get her in the lung, liver in the head. Got an herbalist to help with the reversal of the spread. Still thanking God when I break bread. It's hard to complain.
Okay, have to wait for the internets to do what the internets do. Bear with me. I just got the Tesla in the pandemic. All right, cool. All right, let me stop that. All right, that was Tesla in a pandemic, Rex Life, and all right. Hi. I guess with some new updates, stuff is different. It's been a minute since I've seen y'all. Hey, Pam, how are you? How y'all be? It's good to see y'all on this Sunday, May the 2nd. We are in May, my love month. Ha, ha, ha. I'm so happy about that. How have you been? It's been a minute since I've seen y'all. I needed to take some time. I guess I'll start with how I'm doing. And I'm good. I am really good, actually. I just needed a minute because sometimes we need a minute. So I took one. April was a lot. Parts of it were rough for me. Lots of transition with work and hella stuff going on in the real world and life that impacts me like it does other people, or affects me, even if it doesn't impact me directly, like it does for a lot of folks. Half my family's birthday was in April. One of the things that hit me harder than I expected, one of the birthdays in April was of my uncle who passed last year. And I just did not expect to be a puddle on the floor when his birthday rolled around, but surprise, I was a puddle on the floor. I was a mess. That was a lot. And so, yeah, that happened. Lots of transition, processing trauma, not only like my own and things that have happened in my life, but our collective trauma and stuff that we're living through. Because Black folks, hey, we living through hella trauma. In case you were unaware, just our experience in this country, but certainly lots of things have happened and continue to happen that are traumatic to us, to our people. So there's that, but yeah, also lots of growth. I've been experiencing lots of growth and change in my life. I told y'all I had been feeling open and welcome to whatever change and growth was coming. And so it's here and I'm happy for it. So yeah, there's that part. And then, just loving on myself. So that's what I've been up to. I want to remind you that I am still filming and recording a documentary on our Black experience living through COVID. So if you would like to participate in that, please do email me, info@ChamiaLaRae.com. I will put it in the chat for those of you who may be coming onto Facebook. If you are interested in having a conversation with me, just want to hear how your life is, how your experience is, what your questions are, how you're living, has anyone been affected? All things COVID, so we could talk about that. So the documentary is still ongoing. Yes, I am the author of Dear Love, a collection of love letters written to love by you can get that wherever books are sold, anywhere. And then we doing this. We're doing, other things and to come, but pacing myself. So yeah, we doing this. I'm here for y'all, checking in, how y'all doing. That's the purpose and the point of these community check-ins, is to talk about topics that are relevant to us, to our Black community. And I'm here to listen. Thank you to those of you who text me, who DM me things, who email me things, share links and information. and who share your perspectives. I appreciate that. I appreciate that on lots of different things, whether it's something I post online or something you heard on the show or something you hear out in the world. I appreciate y'all giving me feedback. Thank you. Please keep it coming. Yeah, so let's get in here in my love month of May. Hey, May, I'm so happy. It's May, it's my month. So I normally start with some things from around the gram that I've seen. I'm gonna just share one thing and then that's it. Thank you, Gigi Gal, for the congratulations. And I am continuing to press forward. We have to. I appreciate that. Let me share my screen with you real quick. I'm just gonna share one thing from the gram today. And this was posted just today. And I'll tell you why I'm just sharing one thing from around the gram today. Let me make sure my volume's up. Press play.
Just because I do not want critical race theory taught to my children in school does not mean that I'm a racist, damn it. Just because.
All right, that was it. I'll let it play one more time.
Because I do not want critical race theory taught to my children in school does not mean that I'm a racist, damn it. Just because I do not want critical race theory taught to my children in school does not mean that I'm a racist, damn it.
Okay, so maybe I'll I played it a couple times so you can hear it and get it, whatever. All right. That's all I got from around the gram. I thought that was it was interesting to see, but it's so typical of our overall experience here in this country and conversations had, sentiments expressed, or the way life is lived in silence and just move forward, and how a lot of people think. So I saw that. And truth be told, I don't have a lot to share from around the gram because I've kind of taken an Insta break. I needed one, and so I took one because there's just it was too much, at least with the people that I look at and follow, subscribe to, whatever. Just too many videos of violence against us. And I needed a break from that. I know things are happening. I'll read about it, but then seeing it was a bit much for me. So I took a break from Instagram because it was a combination of that. And then with all of the real life that's going on, as I understand it, you know, I just didn't have any tolerance for all the shallow, hollow shit that I see on there. That's, you know, the regular Instagram. Like, I don't care for all the selfies or the videos of this or that, or the challenge of this or that, or people talk about topics that aren't about our Black life overall. Like, if you're picking a battle, even Black people posting stuff about other shit that's just not as important as our fight for Blackness. I just needed a break from it. So I took one. So I don't have a lot. I did join a Facebook group. So those of you who know me know that I'm not on social media a lot, right? And people send me stuff to join or look at all the time. And I'm like, I didn't see it. Y'all know it's like not me. If you have my number, text me and then I may catch it. But I did join this Black women who garden group on Facebook, and I love it. So they have a lot of members and, you know, people from all over the diaspora, I should say, Black women from all over the diaspora, not just here in America, but all over, posting about gardening and growing and asking questions. And I love that because that is part of my self-care and about that life. It's also part of my fight in the revolution is, you know, growing good and healthy stuff for us. Yeah, so I have done that. But other than that, I've kind of been tapped out on social media for a little bit, which I think is healthy to do. One, to tap into myself, and then also to pay attention to people in real life and have real conversations like this. And so that's what I've done. All right, so let's get into the business of topics we're going to talk about. And again, thank y'all for submitting things. So COVID is still COVID-ing, y'all. Still hella COVID-y out there, as my sister Rena would say. Oh, it's hella COVID-y outside. Yeah, still hella COVID-y outside. You know, I'm praying for all of us, praying for the world, praying we see our way through and that we make it through healthy, lives intact without any long-term effects of this, either within our physical bodies and then also within our mental facilities and the trauma that COVID has been. And I see that there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot happening in this country, a lot that you may not hear about or see based on where you receive your information and your news. But there's a lot going on here too. Certainly a lot going on in all parts of the world. Can't ignore what's happening in India and all across South America and just different places. So my heart goes out to any people who are suffering anywhere. That's the God in me. So I feel for y'all. And I'm praying for all of us. So as of today, according to that good old John Hopkins tracker, if you want to know what's up with COVID, what it looks like. I also noted, well, let me finish one thought before I get into the other. I'm going to share the numbers, today's statistics of incidents of COVID from the John Hopkins tracker that I've been sharing with y'all for months. So I just pasted that link again into the chat for those of you on Facebook. All right. And I want to just, before I say the numbers, say that the reporting that we've received here in the beautiful San Francisco Bay Area has been different recently. You do hear some reporting on the incidence of COVID, meaning like how many people are testing positive that go get tested, but more of the reporting is on vaccinations, like how many people are getting vaccinated, what percentage of populations within a particular geography are vaccinated. You're not hearing so much about testing numbers anymore. You're not hearing a lot about nationally what the numbers look like, or even globally what the numbers look like. So I think it's important that we continue to keep an eye on what is COVID doing. So the last time we were together, we were at about 30.3 million cases of COVID in the United States, 127 million cases globally. So as of today, according to that John Hopkins tracker, and there's a few, the World Health Organization has a tracker, the numbers very closely align to this. And there are several others, you can look at, but that's the one that I've been looking at. So I want to be consistent. But as of today in the United States, we have 32,415,345. That's as of like right before this show. And then globally, 152,402,061. Yeah, that's a lot. So, you see cases skyrocketing all over the world, but then cases are looking like relatively slow and flat in the United States. And so that begs the question, what's going on? What are we doing so magically wonderfully here? Oh, is it because, people are getting vaccinated and suddenly the COVID is gone? And well, that's a good question. And that's a question that we should be asking. My take on it is no. COVID ain't went nowhere. COVID is still here. Shit, did y'all know? There is a link that I want to share, and I'm going to paste it in the chat, and I will say what it is for those of you who may watch this later on YouTube or wherever you watch that. So the site is ourworldindata.org/coronavirus. And this is like a pretty cool data tracking site. And that, let me see, actually, let me just pull it up real quick, share my screen with you so you can see what it is. And all right. So this website, ourworldindata.org/coronavirus, because that's where I'm going right now. Let's talk about COVID. It's like an aggregation of all kind of data around COVID, and you can look at information globally, by country, so on and so forth. So you can look at specific data to the United States of America. You can look at information on vaccinations, specifically testing, all of that. So I looked at this and I pulled this up. So, I've been on here. That's why you guys are seeing my screen. It's like, well, how did you get to this specifically for the United States? Okay, because I wanted to pull this up. And this is where I was going earlier when I said, what's going on that's so magical in the United States when you see cases continuing to skyrocket, or surge, because they don't use the word skyrocket, surge in different countries around the world. You see certain European countries continue to open, go on lockdown, open, go on lockdown, open, go on lockdown, but we don't do that here in America. And here in America, hey, we're almost all the way open everywhere, go live your life, be free. That's what, the TV is saying, the media is saying, The government is saying, what's going on? So one of the things that I suspected, and I want to do some more research on, is how are we testing for COVID? Can we see variants, yada, yada, yada. So one of the cool things about this site I was able to do is you can see from March, which they consider like the beginning of the pandemic, even though that March 2020 wasn't the beginning of the pandemic. It really started, or COVID started sometime maybe October, November 2019. But anyway, here on this graph, you can see what testing looked like over the course of this last year plus. And so, you know, we started with very little testing, got great, kind of peaked somewhere here, like going up into the holidays. And then just as I was thinking and feeling, I felt like maybe testing was going down. The number of tests being performed is going down. So according to this chart, it is. It's trending down. And then you see down here for last week of April, we dipped down to levels of where we were, you know, early last fall, end of last summer. So that's a little bit alarming to me, that our surveillance and how we're looking at COVID, how we're testing, the emphasis on testing and continuing to get screened is waning as the narrative shifts to get the shot, get the shot, get the shot. And I think that we can't take our eye off of testing and the importance of it. So anyway, I want to share that cool tool with you guys. Look at that, because it's important. If we're not testing for COVID, how can we say what it's doing and where it's at? The US, and I've talked about this quite a lot, the United States is quite behind when it comes to genomic sequencing that is looking for variants of the virus, which would allow us to see, you know, what's here, what's emerging, and serve as a warning for us. Oh, hey, there's this new variant popping up, beware, or this is how it acts all over, you know. So we know that all the variants that have popped up around the world are here. Why? Because America's open for business. We ain't stopping nobody from coming here, coming, going, blah, 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 blah. So it's problematic that we're not testing. Continuing to test at those high levels is also problematic that we're not sequencing. So I had been sharing with you guys how we were testing less than 1%, or sequencing less than 1% of tests for the variants, that there was some issues with certain tests that were giving false negatives if variants were present, yada, yada, yada. We've talked about that. Well, depending on which source you look at, as of April, the United States is now sequencing between 1.6 and 3% of tests for variants. So again, depending on the reporting source, with the goal of getting to sequencing 5% of tests, doing sequencing on 5% of tests. And that's a goal that was set by the Biden administration. So some states are testing or sequencing less than 1% of tests, some as much as 5% or so, no more than that. So I'm going to drop a couple of links in the chat right here. Okay, I see you. Government is headed for herd immunity. I don't even believe in that, because we see data that's coming from around the world. For example, you see what happened in Brazil. They had a town, and we talked about it here on the show, a town where you had like 70% infection rate of COVID last year. And then you had the recurrence of the virus, infections with the new variant that was present in Brazil. So I don't know about that whole herd immunity theory. But it's that. So it's just that, a theory. So anyway, I'm posting a couple of links in the chat for y'all to a few articles on this topic of sequencing, why we can't see what we need to see, and the risks of not sequencing for variants and keeping our eyes open to COVID. So you guys need to know this. And why is this relevant, Chamia? Well, it's relevant because you can't fight what you can't see. Okay. All right. And we're opening things up. You know, we're suing school districts and recalling governors and all this shit because we can't open up. We're easing masking restrictions if people have gotten vaccinated. Again, vaccines don't make you immune to COVID. We need to remember that, people. You can get the shot if that's what you choose to do. but it doesn't stop you from getting COVID. It doesn't stop you from spreading COVID. So, you know, to me, my interpretation of the CDC's guidance saying if you have been vaccinated, you can be outside or with certain groups indoors, vaccinated or unvaccinated without your mask, I think it's reckless behavior. So I wouldn't do that if it was me. Wear your mask, wash your hands, keep your distance. Don't go and do all this shit. You need to know why, because we're not testing as much, we're not sequencing, and it's about the dollar bill. So my hot take on it. But you guys look at these articles. So the two articles I shared, one came from PBS and the other is from Nature Magazine. What did I do here? One is from Nature Magazine. I will open this and share it with you really quickly. I want to get off this and talk about some other stuff, but let me tell you real quick. So Nature Magazine, this is an article from early April, why U.S. coronavirus tracking can't keep up with the concerning variants. Okay, so this talks about, again, cases surging across the United States. Variants are on the rise. We're ramping up surveillance. Evidence shows that variants can make vaccines less effective. We know that. And to spread undetected in the country, countries hardest hit by the disease. So we know that. So let me just read this paragraph. Laboratories supported by the US government have doubled the rate at which they are sequencing SARS-CoV-2 genomes over the past 2 months. Doubled-ish. Okay. Still, the number of genomes that the country shared in the online genome repository in March represented only 1.6% of its positive COVID-19 cases that month. And the United States lags behind at least 30 countries. Some say we're 30th, 34th, 37th on the list of developed nations in terms of sequencing. The sequencing it is done throughout the pandemic, according to this group, this online genomic repository group. And it frustrates researchers. Forget researchers and their frustration. It frustrates me as a person that's trying to live and be healthy out here because we can't see this. I don't have the information I need in order to make healthy decisions for myself and my loved ones. So that's why I'm staying in the hood and not doing some of these things, because you need information in order to make informed decisions and choices. Anyways, y'all go on and read that. But as things continue to be told or spun as if, you know, we're on the end of this pandemic, things are getting better, things are opening up. At least that's what the local news is saying here in San Francisco Bay Area in California. Pick a channel, pick a network. This is what's being told. This is the narrative that's being sold to us. And we're being told we may be able to travel to Europe and other places this summer, live your best life. But in the last week or so, the United States State Department said, don't go to 80% of the world. It's too dangerous. DEFCON level 4. All right. So they're saying on the one hand, oh, we'll open some things. You shouldn't travel, but we're not restricting travel. You can book your flight. You can go wherever you can get your ticket to right now. Just, we wouldn't recommend it, but our doors are open both ways. Anyways, the United States has very little contact tracing for those who do travel. The CDC has said, because they did the study, and they said that it would be better if airlines didn't sell that middle seat in terms of reducing risk of transmission. However, airlines said that as of May 1st, and most had already begun selling all the seats on the plane, but I think it was just like 1 or 2 airlines that were still holding that middle seat open. All of them as of May 1st, yesterday, were selling all seats. Despite the data that says it's better and safer for people to not do so during a pandemic. There's this story that came out. I'm going to post the link in the chat. A third of passengers who recently traveled from New Delhi to somewhere in China, I believe it was Singapore, tested positive for COVID. Wow. So that happened. I'm going to paste another link. I'm pasting a couple links into the chat here for y'all. Hold on. Trying to get it together on my new stuff. Bow. Now this Forbes link, I am going to share my screen with you. I'm gonna read a little bit. So this is from a Forbes article. It says the headline of it is positive COVID-19 cases. Here's why that will not happen in the United States. So there's a new record for the number of coronavirus infections traced back to a single commercial airline flight. A whopping 47 passengers, and I think it's been a few more since this was written because now it's a third of the flight. A whopping 47 passengers who flew on Vistara flight 6395 from New Delhi to Hong Kong, not Singapore, excuse me, on April 4th have since tested positive for COVID-19. The number represents 25% of the 188 passengers on board. Again, this is early April when this article came out. Again, those who have tested positive, that number has gone up from this one flight. All of the passengers on the Vistara flight had tested negative for the virus within 72 hours prior to departure. So you know that if you're going to fly somewhere now, you have to have a negative test result before you fly within 72 hours before, and keep it with Hong Kong's travel requirements. Yet 25 travelers tested positive immediately after landing in Hong Kong, and a further 22 cases were discovered on day 12. While this happened on the other side of the world, Americans, let me highlight this part too so y'all can see where I'm reading. While this happened on the other side of the world, Americans should not assume it could never happen here or that it hasn't already happened. But we may never know. The United States has never implemented a contact tracing program for air travelers, even more than a year into the pandemic, and even as new variants pop up around the world. You can go on and read the rest of this article. I recommend that you do. But the point here is that we aren't doing the testing. We aren't doing the contact tracing. We aren't doing the genomic sequencing. We want it to just be pretty and just go away so we can get back to life. And that is how the United States is operating when it comes to COVID. What does this mean for you, Black folks? Well, to me, first, it means that you need to be aware of this. You need to be aware. If you are relying solely on corporations, elected officials, these other entities to be giving you all the necessary information, or for them to be looking out for your individual best interest or our collective best interest, well, come on. We know what this is. This country has never looked out for our collective best interest, Black people, come on. Certainly not for our health, come on now. But it's not happening for anyone. It's not happening for us here. And there is lots of data, not just from news sources like Forbes, but, you know, statistics or statisticians, scientists, whomever you want to call those people, that says that, you know, we are actually not doing this thing. It's a fact. So we're not testing as much as we were or we should. We're not sequencing. We're not doing the contact tracing. All the variants are here. Anyway, you need to know. And the fact is that there's still so much we don't know. Pick a topic related to COVID. There's a lot that we don't know about the virus itself, how it acts, long-term effects on all of the body systems, about the vaccines, their efficacy, long-term, how long do they last, how long do they provide some sort of protection against the symptoms that are more severe of the virus. What are the long-term effects of the vaccines? There's some vaccine and treatment news that I am following, including, you know, pills that are being developed in lieu of the shots, pills for treatment if someone tests positive that they can take within, you know, a certain window of that positive test or onset of symptoms. Lots of different things. There's so much we don't know about COVID. And it's important that we know that we have necessary information so we can make informed decisions. And so I just say for us on COVID, and I'm gonna move on from this, Black folks, I love you, I care about you. I encourage you to stay the course. Stay the course, meaning continue to wear your mask everywhere when you around people outside of your household and your little COVID bubble. Keep your COVID bubble small and consistent. Continue to wear your mask, wash your hands, social distance, not go out and do big group things, all of that, because you can't see it. You may not have symptoms now, even if you were positive for COVID. You may have been positive and didn't have major symptoms and recovered, meaning to the place where you now test negative, but you don't know what could pop up in your life 6 months from now, 8 months from now, a year from now, or so on, because that is happening to people. And so the thing is, we want you to mitigate your risk of exposure, meaning don't get it. You want to not get COVID. So do the things that protect you from not getting it. Okay. Information is power. So I'm just sharing a few things. Now I want to pivot and talk about what we always talk about here because it's important. And so these are topics that are important to our Black community. And there's so much that falls under this next big bucket, which is racism in America. And while racism exists all over the planet, it's the way that it is here and the way that it is inflicted, impressed upon, programmed into our Black existence here in America is unlike anywhere else on the planet. I want to share some experiences with you. So a couple weeks ago, I had an appointment to renew passports for myself and my kid. And we had to go to a little city here in the Bay Area that's kind of like over yonder, like, no, I guess that's San Francisco. I can't see what's what. But anyway, it's a small little town, Marin County, called Tiburon. It was I chose to go to that post office because you had to make an appointment in order to get your passport at any post offices. And it was the earliest appointment I could get. The other places were like another month or so out. So I needed to get this. So we got in the car, had all our documentation, everything we need to have. We go to our appointment, got there a little bit early. So on the way, there was a news alert that the jury had reached a verdict in the trial of Chauvin, the one of the officers who murdered George Floyd. So of course I wanted to see that too. So when I walked into the post office, when we walked in, there were two, I'm assuming they're white based on their appearance. I don't know their ethnicity. They looked white to me. There were two white men working behind the counter. One of them, who was helping some other people, I guess, with their passport, says, "Oh, you must be like trying to pronounce my name, and some people do, and they wait for me to jump in." I said, "Miss Chambers." "Yes, that's me." "Okay, yeah." So he told me that they were running about 15 minutes behind and asked me to go wait outside. Sure, no problem. So we go back outside. We're live streaming, waiting for, the court to be brought back into session to hear what the verdict is in the trial. And I finished some work and some other things while we're in the car. More than 15 minutes have gone by. I noticed another Black woman go into the post office, and she had two children with her who were bigger, I'm assuming older as well than my child. They hadn't come out. So, and then again, the 15 minutes had passed, and the man had told me, like, wait outside, he would come get me. So I go inside just to see what's going on. So as I walk in, the second man, who didn't say anything to me before, says, "Oh, okay, you do know each other," as the other Black woman and her family were at the counter. So he was talking about me and knowing this other Black woman. So I said, "Well, actually, we don't. Not all Black people know each other." So then the other postal worker, white man, who was helping people with their passports. Now I gleaned that that's what he's doing. He was helping someone with their passport when I came in. Now he's helping this woman and her children. And so he turns to me and he says, "Oh, I thought this was you." "I thought she was you." I'm like, "No, she's not me." So he tells her, "Well, she was next. So we're about 30 minutes behind. If you guys can go wait outside." So I said, "Let me go get my stuff and come back." So I go to the car, retrieve my kid, close the windows. And as we're walking back up into the post office, the other Black woman and her children are coming out. She holds the door for me. And she says, they need to get it together. I said, yes, they really do. They need to do better. She said they need to do a whole lot better, something like that. And I said, yeah, we don't all look alike. She was like, I know this is a mess, something like that. So we have our little exchange, like, what the F was that? That ain't cool. Like, we don't look alike. We're clearly not the same person. And we didn't look anything alike, even with our mask on. And my hair is different, height is different, body shape different. She has 2 kids that look way different than my 1 kid that looks like, anyway, we're not the same person. So we go inside. And the man says to me, oh, I'm so sorry. I assumed you were the same person. I didn't even look at y'all faces. And I have my little child here, because in my mind, my reaction is probably like, some of you guys like, the fuck? Like, who does that? That's not cool. So he says, yeah, I thought you guys were the same person. I didn't even look at you. Who does that? I'm an individual. I'm a person. You should look at your customers coming in. You should look to see that all Black faces aren't the same. She has 2 children. I have 1. We're just a different person. So that was a problem. But throughout the transaction, I was concerned. So we're still streaming. Court was in session. Judge was going to rule on or read the verdict. He does. Guilty on all charges. I give a little cheer. My son's like, yay, we do that. Throughout the transaction, I noticed that the man wasn't asking me for the documents that I knew were needed and necessary in order to submit a complete passport application for me and my child, such as birth certificates, identification, whatever the things are, that need to get submitted with your passport. He wasn't asking me. So I would ask, hey, don't you need to see his birth certificate? Don't you need to see this documentation that proves that I'm his parent to have the right and the authority to get this for him? Or even with myself, because he did my son's first and then mine, he wasn't asking for the documentation. And I almost had to insist on him taking it and including it and making sure that it got into the envelope. So it was very strange. The transaction ended up being a lot more, costing a lot more than I expected. And this isn't my first, second, or third time renewing a passport in my life either. So I kind of have an idea about what these things cost. So it costs more. I paid more because I wanted to get out of there. I just wanted to be done, have, my son out of this experience in this environment where someone, was being racist towards us and treating us differently, even though he was kind of oblivious to it. And get out of Tiburon because it's not a town that, growing up in the Bay Area, I was told that it's a place that's not necessarily friendly to Black folks, and it was affluent and white and all of that. I know certainly when we came in, I could see the Blue Lives Matter flags flying on people's porches, and I was like, let me just get out of this place. But I was upset that happened, and it happened to me and it happened to my son because we were both a customer. And it happened against this backdrop of the verdict in this trial being read. And then, there was the phone parade that began, with people calling and texting, people emailing from work, all kinds of things. People, did you know? And then the statements came. So the statements were, justice has been served, all of this. And as a mother who can't even contemplate losing my child, or a family member, as someone who has been a victim of gun violence, as someone who's experienced racism in so many different ways, as someone who's lost loved ones to murder, I struggled with what was being said, what was being reported, what was being shared, what was being posted, what was being emailed, what was being told to me from various sources that justice had been served. Because it's not how I felt about it. I felt that it was a first step in some accountability. Other officers haven't been tried yet. Sentencing hadn't been done yet, all of that. And I'm like, man, we can't afford to get happy about this yet, because even in this, the justice system in our experience turns around and do some fuck shit. They might be found guilty and then get like very little time, or so anyway, I was thinking about all these different things, and then he's not alive to be here with his family and his loved ones and all that. Had to work, had to still mommy, had to still do all the things I had to do. And then later that day, when I was able to sit down and go online and look at some more things, then I see that somewhere around the timing of the reading of the verdict, right before, right after, something like that, this little girl, this little Black girl, was murdered by an officer. And at that time, because it was just after 8, that night here, California time. And so there was a press conference that was held by this police department in Ohio, and there was a release of body camera footage, some of it, from this officer who killed this little girl. And there were statements made. This is all on the same day. So I had this racist encounter, not to mention, like, racism doesn't have to be an encounter and exchange with the person. We live in a structurally racist system. So you're encountering and experiencing racism as a Black person, whether you know it or not, just by living here. There's that part. But I had this direct racist experience earlier in the day. This verdict came down, hearing this narrative. Now I see this video of this baby girl murdered within seconds of this officer arriving on scene. It looked to me like he was reckless and pointing and aiming the gun in the direction of numerous people. He shot and he killed baby girl Micaiah, and it was just by the grace of God, is the best way I could say it, that the other girl that she was tussling with, or the other people over here, weren't shot too, because there were other people around in the direction he was firing. And I guess what was so hard about that for me was, one, witnessing the murder of a Black child, the execution of a Black child. That was hard as a mom, as a Black woman. It was hard seeing it in the midst of all of this other racist shit happening to Black men and women and children, including, like, I had just read about this 17-year-old baby boy and getting murdered by police in the bathroom of his high school after the mother of his girlfriend, I haven't seen the girlfriend, I'm assuming she's what her mama is, I don't know, called the police on him, and they went into the bathroom at this baby school and they killed him. So it's all this stuff happening. And then I was also disappointed by the response of a lot of us. A lot of us who our first response was, she had a knife. Oh, but I heard she had a knife. Oh, I heard she was fighting people. I don't care that she had a knife or that she was fighting people. A Black child was murdered. There was no attempt at de-escalation. There was nothing. It was get out and kill. Black kill. That's all it was. Black kill, death. That's all it was. And our first response was, but let us justify and explain away. And that hurt. That was very, very hurtful. And a lot to process. And then to try to go to sleep, and then to get up and to perform, as we all have to do the next day. We have to perform for our families, the roles that we serve in. We have to perform on our jobs, whatever role we serve in. We have to continue to perform in this structurally racist existence that we have here. It was exhausting. Then as the next day progressed and the story was picked up and the tragedy was told. And I continue to listen to the narrative. I continue to listen to the narrative about this young woman who was murdered, this young lady who was murdered. And I'm like, who? Who's this young woman? Who else? And then I realized, oh, they talk about this girl, this child that was murdered by a police officer. They didn't say murdered. They said this killed or shot or after, and they put all the spin around it. And anyway, where are you going with this, Chamia? I always talk about weaponized language, the language that's used against us, the narrative and the things that we pick up and we use against ourselves. And there were a few things in this case of the murder of baby girl Micaiah that fell into that. We age our Black girls up. Our Black girls get over sexualized. Our Black men get over sexualized, and they age our children up. And it's a problem if we do that too. So no, we have to remind ourselves, each other, and them, whoever them is, that, like in this case, we're talking about somebody's child. This was not an adult. And even if you're 18, you're still a teenager, a child. Your brain is literally still forming. Your body is still physically growing like children. This was a child. And so in me giving you all this information and talking about this today, yes, it all falls under the category of racism in America. Yes, it also falls under that category of weaponized language, whether it's the language that was used against me and my son. Oh, I didn't even look at y'all. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry is actually an apology. It's not. It's a figure of speech that someone was using. I'm sorry. I didn't even look at you. I thought y'all was the same person. Weaponized language. Justice was served, and George Floyd is dead, murdered by these multiple police officers. Weaponized language. Micaiah, a child, murdered within seconds. I don't know, somewhere, I watched the video multiple times and counted, was it 11 seconds, 15 seconds? It was seconds of this officer coming on scene. He's yelling, what's going on? What's happening? Get down. Young woman shot. Weaponized language. We have to be aware so we can confront this and do things about it. I'll give you some other examples. This comes up a lot as I do my coaching and mentoring. Yeah, hold on. Let me look at y'all in the comments. I know I've been talking for a little bit. Chamia, you are awesome. You're a woman. You inspire me. May God bless you always. Thank you, Miss Banks. I appreciate you. Thank you for that. Hey, I'm here. Hey, Auntie. Thank you for joining and pulling up. Appreciate the support. Black men are turned into the super strong, fearful beast instead of being looked at as a human being. Right. That's right. It happens every day. Weaponized language. So in my coaching and mentoring and just experience talking folks living, something that comes up a lot for us or with us is people not feeling appreciated in their workplace, feeling that their opportunities for growth and advancement are limited, feeling they don't get credit for their work, all of that. True that. Working in corporate America, you see that there are very few Black leaders, Black people in position of leadership at the executive level, at an officer level. If there's a corporation that has that, very few of us. Very, very few. Single digit percentages, less than 5. I take my platform and my position seriously in life, regardless of setting, whether it's in personal relationships, in professional settings, whatever. And I use opportunities when I have them to share information so people can be aware, hopefully make more informed decisions, and where needed, change. So I had shared I wrote an email and sent it to some leaders within one of the organizations I work with earlier in April, around the time of the start of the Derek Chauvin trial. I had a conversation last week with executive within this organization who needed some time to process the message and wanted to just sit and rap with me about it. So we rapped. She hollered at me. Uh, and, wanted to see where I was coming from and what can she do and be an ally and all that. So we talked on that, talked about her journey and what she does and how she feels, and she gets it. All right, all right. And we got to a place where I could share some more tangible examples of things that she should do in addition to being aware, and, seeing something, saying something, not continuing to perpetuate racist stereotypes and actions and behaviors within the organization, et cetera. But here's something more tangible too. There's a piece that was being written for consumption outside of the organization about the work of people and groups within the organization. And the names going on the piece were those of white executives. And I understand some companies, depending on the organization, if it's a regulated environment, all of that, they have a practice of putting executives as the face of the organization or the face of the statements. You have spokespeople for the companies. I get it. Especially if there's an opportunity for questions to be asked, or you're speaking about regulated products or financials or things like that. I get why you have that. However, this is a case where, an instance where there was an opportunity to be more inclusive. And these opportunities come up all the time. And you have these diversity and inclusion programs that exist within schools, school systems, within corporate systems, whatever, with, mission and action points and all this stuff. And I always tell people the way to create an inclusive culture is to just be inclusive every day. What does that look like? What does that look like, Chamia? What does it look like? How do I become inclusive? So one of the things that I shared was, like in other instances, this is an extra opportunity for visibility, and we're talking about work being done, but the authorship and the reference and the credit for the work in the piece is being given to those who aren't doing the work, who aren't even close to it. Most of the time, or not most of the time, I'll just say sometimes, oftentimes, the people who are doing the work, who know it best, don't get that credit. They don't get that exposure. They don't get the opportunities that come with that exposure. And sometimes, as in this case, the person or the people who are, some of the people who report to the work are not white. And so what could this mean for them and their growth internally as well as externally? So I recommended to her that she take her name off of the piece. Take your name off and put this person's name on, because this person is leading the work. This person is championing the work. This person is the one who the story is about. So why not put this person's name on it? And when you think about inclusivity and the opportunities that this can create, how this can position this person as a thought leader in this space, internally, inside this organization, or externally, outside of this organization, in the broader sphere of business that this company is in, do you see how continuing down the path of history and standard practice both works against the inclusive behavior and culture that you're saying you want to be and create, and actually making meaningful impact to people and being inclusive, actually just doing it? She's like, yeah, I see, you're right. I don't even know nothing about this, but that's what my name on it. And okay, yeah, you're right. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see if her name goes off and this other person who is driving the work, if their name goes on. But that's something that happens to us when we think about weaponized language. It's also the use of our names, the use of our names, including the omission of our name and the credit for the work. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. And for a person like me who is a communicator, and I'm used to write, I'm a writer, and I write for people all the time. I write words for people to say, to speak, to present, to do all. So I'm not necessarily looking for my name to be front and center all the time, but there are times when it should be. And certainly for others, there's a lot of times when they should be getting credit and recognition for their work. Because then what doesn't happen is we don't get the exposure. We don't get the development opportunities that come. And then we don't get the advancement. And it can start, and this isn't, I'm not implying that this is all just because of not having your name recognized. There's a lot of different reasons, all that come down to this structural racism and how these practices have been put in place and continue to be in place, and businesses continue to operate this way. But giving someone credit for their work and putting their name on the work is very impactful. Removing a person's name from the work, omitting a person's name from the work or from the exposure is detrimental. It's detrimental to their dollars, it's detrimental to their financial health, their mental health. It's detrimental in a lot of different ways. We see it. And it just doesn't have to be that way. I think that companies can take a real serious look at their practices when communicating and positioning certain things and give people credit for their work. Give them the opportunity to shine. Give them the opportunity to grow. Give them the opportunities for exposure, because we don't get those opportunities often. Give them opportunities for development, because we don't get those as often. Give them opportunities for advancement. We need to be mindful. And then we also need to be mindful that violence continues to happen against Black men, women, and children in the US daily. Daily. I'm grateful to those who pick up a phone. We've heard stories about the brave teenage girl whose footage of the murder of George Floyd was seen all over the world, and had it not been for her recording and continuing to record and sharing that, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't have seen those angles, that perspective. And cameras aren't always present a lot of the times when things happen to us, but they're continuing to happen. Don't be fooled and don't be spun into thinking that it doesn't. But I also want to say that violence, there's different types of violence. And using weaponized language is a type of violence against people. So yes, there is a physical violence that our Black men, women, and children suffer. And then there's all these other type of violence that happens against us too on a daily basis. So we need to be aware. We also have to be aware of half measures, window dressing, fluff, spin, breadcrumbs, all of that stuff when thrown at us and what it does. What is the intent of these things? So when people are talking about justice served, is that a half measure? Is that a window? What is that? Listening to President Biden's speech to Congress a few days ago, and the things that he said in that, and a whole bunch of stuff that he didn't say about us. The couple of words he mentioned about police reform, That's what I'm talking about. I hear folks, we get excited when he say something about black. Oh, he mentioned black. You be talking about a black box on the airplane. You don't know. We heard black. We happy. We excited. Woo! He for us. The system is not for us. And unless we're talking about radical change, which is required, unless we're talking about radical change, we're only talking about half measures and window dressing. And so you guys need to be mindful of weaponized language. Don't get overly excited with shit that's really not doing nothing for you and your Black life. Don't be excited for things that really aren't protecting us, giving us more access, giving us more liberty, giving us more freedom, giving us more independence. What are we excited about? So I'm saying this not to be grim, but the situation is that and has been such. Not that our whole existence is struggle and despair. It's not. They will want us to think that. They program and condition us and serve us things that say that to be Black is to be underrepresented and to be marginalized and to be poor and to be struggling and to be uneducated and to be in these communities. They will have you thinking your whole existence is all of that, and that your hair isn't enough, your skin isn't enough, your teeth aren't enough, your food isn't enough. Like, all, I mean, come on. Yeah, all of that happens. All of that is the case. But who we are as a people, who we are as individuals, who we are as a community is greater than all of the things that they tell us that we are and are not. And I just need us to know that. And that's where, I always talk about love. So to pivot into that self-care, that self-love thing, um, it's essential. It's important. Be mindful. I just have to say this one more time. Be mindful, y'all, of half measures and window dressing. Weaponized language is deadly to us. And so that's just the truth. I want to say that, put a pin in that. Pivot to talking about self-care. But please be aware. Share your thoughts. I want to hear it. Share articles. Tell me if I'm wrong. Y'all, come on, let's talk, man. Let me know if you have a different perspective. That's encouraged here. That's welcomed here. But truth is truth. And it's not my truth, your truth. There is only one truth. Believe it so much, I got it tatted. One truth. Different perspectives, one truth. All right. Self-care. So, what have y'all been doing for self-care in the midst of all of this life that we're living? Life has always been what it is. There have always been struggles since the beginning of documented history. And documented history doesn't mean when white folks started writing shit down. We need to deprogram from that too. We have our own documentation. Lots of societies and cultures have documented things, whether it was in written form, in pictorial form, in verbal passage of information, all of that. We know that there have been struggle and conflict since the beginning of humanity, because part of that is the nature of human beings. And the world is the world, and for all of the challenges in it, there's also a lot of beauty in it. And I do encourage you to find that, to seek that, to appreciate that in every single day that you have, which is absolutely a gift. It is. So for self-care, what I have been doing recently is continuing to garden, because that's part of my, I just love it. It's just good to do. Didn't grow up gardening, so just got into that like since I've been a parent. And I love it. It feeds me. I love it. So I went, what's today? Sunday. So I went on Friday, picked up a few other things. I just went to go like walk around the nursery, because sometimes I just go walk around the nursery, just, get energy from the plants and all the other happy people out there shopping for green shit. Love it. So didn't intend to buy anything other than more arugula, because I'm growing some arugula, and it's it's like the best arugula I've tasted ever. It's so good. So I figured that I would go and just buy some more arugula to plant that, because I'm eating it up. Like I'm eating it faster than it grows, because it's that good. It's so refreshing. You can cook it. You can eat it cold. You can make pesto from it, which I'm going to have to do this summer. All kinds of stuff. Anyways, I went to go buy more arugula and just mosey and be amongst the element of all of the different green living things. So $300 and something later and a cart full of stuff. Like I bought all this stuff, but I love it. I'm going to plan and make my space more beautiful. I've been loving as we're outside, you know, neighbors stopping by as they're walking around in the neighborhood. I love neighborhoods where people like walk around and say hi. But I've loved hearing feedback from my neighbors that they love and appreciate all the stuff that I'm planting outside, and it's beautiful to look at, and the babies love it. Excellent. Excellent. For the babies and the birds, I'm here to do that. So I've been gardening. I have also been, for my self-care, setting boundaries, which is hard for me to do. I don't know why. Like, I'm really good with respecting other people's boundaries and reminding them of their boundaries, but I can struggle when it comes to setting and maintaining my own. So some of the things I've been doing, what does it look like, Chamia, when you talk about this boundaries thing? People throw that word up there. What is that? What you talking about? So for me, it's meant saying no to things when I need to say no, even if it's saying no to myself. No, Chamia, no, don't do that. Or to other people, or to opportunities or things like that. If it's just not for me at the time, saying no. I've been taking space for myself and from things, from people, places, things, like I told you about my Insta break, all that kind of stuff. Taking space when I need it, where I need it, without explanation, because I don't have to. Now, if there's some people in certain circumstances that, you know, might need to have an understanding, then I'll provide that. But taking the space, being still. I talked to my mother about this earlier today. Like, I stayed in bed yesterday. I was like, you knew how long my list was of things that I had to do. Oh my God, it's crazy. I was like, get up out this bed and do some stuff. You got hella stuff to do. But then I was like, you better hurry up and lay down. So that's what I did. The struggle inside my mind when I'm thinking I should be busy and be doing more is hard. And I'm working on piecing my mind as I'm piecing my body. If you're wondering where that word just came from, shout out to the Too Short store. I have a couple of his buttons, and it says his favorite word. It says, what's my favorite word? I got two, and then he got the one that says what's my favorite word? So that's what y'all just heard. So shout out to Too Short right here from the Bay. He has those buttons that say stuff, and I like little kitschy shit like that. So not part of my self-care, but it is because it makes me laugh and stuff. So I have been being still and then holding the line. So when I set a boundary, I have to keep it. I have to maintain it. Now I can flex and change and move borders and do all that if I feel like it. But if I set a boundary, it was for a reason, and I need to adhere to that. And also let people know it's not shifting and it's moving. And it's been difficult in certain circumstances, in certain relationships in my life recently as I've begun doing this and flexing this new muscle and this new growth that I have. And it's uncomfortable for some people. I get that. I even had a friend tell me, Chamia, you got to give us some time to get there. The growth is good. Give us time to catch up. Okay. But I need to stay focused on me and what's good for me as y'all get okay with it or don't. I don't know, but this is what I'm doing. So holding the line, that's something I've been doing. And through it all, continuing to spread Black love. So I love y'all, Black people. You know that. I love you. And, you know, being that, because love is so essential. It's who we are as spiritual beings. It's who I am as a spiritual being. And Black love is revolutionary. And it's my part in the fight. So I'm continuing to do that. That's what I've been doing. I rest, read, talk to positive people, and pray. Absolutely. Absolutely. Always be you. That's right. I can't be nobody else and wouldn't want to. Wouldn't want to. So those are some of the things I'm doing. Type in what you're doing for self-love into the comments here if you're watching now on Facebook Live. Later, if you go back and watch it on my Facebook, YouTube, in the YouTube comments, Instagram, if you do that. Why? Because people read the comments. And you never know how that idea or that thing that you're doing for self-care might inspire someone to do that thing or something similar or something else for themselves. So share. That's why I'm asking, what do y'all do for self-care? What does that look like to you? So please do that. Share so we can continue to learn how to take better care of ourselves. So let's talk about Dear Love the Movement. # Dear Love the Movement. Thank y'all for continuing to reach out to me about love too. Oh, it's been so good and fulfilling. And I love talking about love. So I appreciate that y'all reach out to me, whether it's for advice or to vent or to express or to say, oh, Chamia, can you talk about this? Whatever. Please continue to do that. I want to continue to hear and to receive your love letters, questions, and topics. So if you have them, please do email them to me at info at ChamiaLaRae.com. You can also DM me anywhere at Just Chamia. That's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can also text me if you haven't had my number, because y'all do that too. Hey, whatever, holla at your girl. And again, I just want to let you know that Dear Love, the movement is about spreading, strengthening, fortifying, supporting Black love. It's not about tearing people down. It's not about rumors and all this other kind of stuff. When people be talking about love and relationships and man bash and woman bash and relationship bash and it's not about that. It's about the act of love, which is so essential, and it's necessary. It's who we are. It's what we need, and it's one of our greatest weapons. So I'm about that. So remember, I'm not about putting people on blast. If you include your name or the name of someone else in your love letter, question, or topic, I will either take it out altogether or I will change it. It doesn't change the context of the story, but I'm not about putting people on blast. We are about the love here. All right. So, all right, call me. Going through. Call me. I'm here. Not during the show, but call me after. Love it. All right. So, dear love, I had a request. Chamia, can you talk about COVID love? Hookups versus real romance during COVID. Do you feel about that? How do I feel about that? I think it's a good idea? So on and so forth. Love during COVID. What y'all think? I feel like I've gotten this question before and I've answered it, but it came up again, so I'll answer it again. Love is essential and it's necessary for existence, period. It don't matter if it's a pandemic. I'm talking about love. I ain't talking about fucking. I'm talking about love. If you want to know my perspective on sex, say that, and I will answer that question too. Love is essential, period. It's necessary. Loving ourselves and loving other people, receiving love from other people. You need it. Everybody needs love. Anybody that said, no, I'm good, I don't need no love from nobody, you know what? That person needs extra love. That person right there, somebody go grab them, hold them down and hug them and kiss them all over their face. They need all the love. Everyone does. Not to say that, physical love is necessarily the only way to express love or to give it, but y'all get what I'm saying here. So love during COVID, how do I feel about it? Yeah. We should be loving during COVID. We should be seeking love and relationships if that's what we need, that companionship, all of that. But it starts with a healthy self, period. Starting with a healthy mind, healthy body, healthy spirit, healthy thing, all of that. You got to be together before you're trying to do anything outside of yourself. So COVID, sorry, move my pillow. COVID has been really tough on us. And so I think that desiring companionship during a very stressful time of life is completely normal. It's completely human and it's completely okay. Cool. I just think that, and I've shared this before, if you are connecting with anyone outside of your household during this pandemic, you need to be smart. So, because the topic here or the question here was around hookups versus real romance. Well, whether you hooking up with somebody or forming a 50-year lasting relationship, you still got to be smart. You have to be honest with yourself and with that other person about how y'all are moving, because this virus is real, right? So there's that. There's the smarts of navigating in a very dangerous situations, and what do you do to be physically safe? Do that. And then there's what you need to do to navigate to be safe and smart in your engagement and interaction with someone else on any level, right? So starting spiritually, then you could get verbally, then maybe physically and all that. That's what I'm saying. Have yourself together. Get you together. And I mean, we're all works in progress. So what you mean I gotta be this before I get with somebody? I gotta have this, accomplish this, before I get with someone. Look. You can make my response as complicated as you want to. What I'm saying is have your shit together. You be together. Be the person who you need to be for you before you go becoming someone else's problem, someone else's work. Relationships are work. They're not all roses and sunshine. And just because you have achieved certain things, whether they are tangible, whether they are career, whether they are this or that or the other, maybe it'll make some things easier, or some things maybe you'll be able to navigate them better, but it doesn't mean that you still won't have to do the work, because relationships are work, any type of relationship. So have a strong foundation within yourself, of yourself, before you go engaging with another person. That's all I have to say on that. Love during COVID, fine. Hookups during COVID, I mean, hookups anytime are a little bit dangerous, right? For a lot of different reasons, because there's all kinds of shit you could get. Now you could get all the shit you could get before COVID plus COVID if you're hooking up during COVID. So you have to be smart at any time. Practice safe sex. I always say that. Practice safe sex anytime you're having sex. If you're in a committed relationship, you should continue to practice safe sex. I mean, come on. And that's a whole other. Are y'all asking me about that? If you ask me about that, I'll go down into that. I don't get a whole lot of sex questions. I get more relationship questions. But if you want to talk sex, let me know and we can do that, y'all. Real romance during COVID, romance or relationships. Because I'm a romantic too, but a lot of romantic ideas and notions can be fantasy versus the reality of how people actually act and what they actually do, how they respond and all of that. So real romance, you got romance during COVID? Sure. Romance is lovely. I love it all the time. Like if you like think of all stereotypical romance shit, I love all that all the time. If you somebody that's interested in me, know that about me. Love all the romance, all the frills, can't do too much. But during COVID, you just have to keep that in mind, that it's COVID. That's it. And then go and live your life. All right, that's that. I am going to share. I'm going to read something to y'all from my book, Dear Love, a collection of love letters written to love. And it's a story, stuff going flying all over the place. It's a story, a letter called When I Grow Up. Dear Love, a friend who works in the healthcare industry told me about an elderly woman who had been a patient for a long time and had begun to suffer from dementia in recent years. Her condition continually deteriorated with each visit. The woman needed a procedure, and when her caretaker brought her in, she would get so agitated that they couldn't complete the appointment. When the woman returned for a third attempt, again accompanied by her caretaker, she was completely lucid upon arrival. However, she became increasingly agitated. She began to shout, "I'm not going in there. You're not taking me back there. I won't do it." The staff, saddened by the poor condition of their longtime client, didn't know what more they could do. All their attempts to calm her further upset the woman. Then the woman's husband arrived. The caretaker had called him from her cell phone to come help. They had both been married and divorced before and had children from those relationships. They met much later in their lives, fell in love, and married as senior citizens. As he walked into the waiting area, the woman immediately stopped shouting and became calm. My friend was moved by the look of love in the elderly woman's eyes as she gazed at her husband, and by the instantaneous calming effect he had on her. The man looked at his wife, took her hand, and said, "Let's go have your procedure." Without any protest, the woman followed and calmly allowed the staff to administer care. Her husband sat by her side and shared stories about the fun things they used to do together. When the procedure was over, he took her hand and escorted her out. They left together happily. My friend's story made me long for a love like that, an unconditional in sickness and in health, powerful, kind-hearted, bring me back to reality, hold my hand and walk me through life kind of love. It's possible. Truly yours, me. So that was When I Grow Up, from my book, Dear Love, a collection of love letters written to love, available wherever books are sold. Um, and I wanted to share that story with you all today because I don't know about you. I don't know what gives you hope. I don't know what gives you inspiration. I don't know what love looks like to you. Um, but I share with you what a little bit of what love looks like to me. I share it through this work that I'm doing. I share it through me sharing my opinions on things because I try to approach um, whatever I do from a place of love. Certainly, as it relates to us Black folks, because I love us. Um, and also in how I talk about love and relationships. I don't believe it's a natural state for us to be living where the majority of us are not with a partner. I don't believe that it's a natural state for us to be living with where the majority of us who get married get divorced. I don't believe it's a natural state for us to be raising our children largely in single parent homes or homes where people get divorced or have all this conflict and hate and angst and violence. I don't think that's natural for us Black people. I don't believe that. Even if it's become statistically the case in the last 50 years, 30 years, some of it 20 years, some of it 10 years, some of it, I don't believe that's our natural state of being. I know that we need to be aware that a lot of the ways that we're relating to ourselves, thinking of ourselves, and certainly in the way that we're relating and experiencing each other is by design. And it's by design to keep us apart, to keep us wanting, to keep us seeking, to keep us not loving each other or ourselves. And so this story, because I was like, I could have read some more love questions or topics, and we'll get to that the next time we talk. But this story, When I Grow Up, to me is it's about understanding. It's about compassion. It's about hope. It's about possibilities. It's about growth. It's about selflessness. And above all things, it's about love. Um, and so I wanted to share that with y'all today because we need more examples of love. We do. We need to see it more. We need to hear it more. We need to talk about it more. We need to give it more. We need to be it. And yeah, I guess that's all I got on that. So I hope you took something from that. I hope you go back and you think about it. If you have the book, read it. If you are watching this, it'll be on my Facebook. You can rewind it and listen to it again later. Or something else that makes you think, or that ponders love or inspires that in your life. I hope you do that because that's what we need. So that's it. So that's where I am on hashtag Dear Love the Movement. Please do keep your love letters, questions, or topics coming in. Again, you can email them to me at info at chamialarae.com. You can DM me anywhere on social media at just Chamia, JustChamia. You can text me. You have my number. Whatever it is, put it up in the air. You can mail something to my office, a love letter to my office, if you want, and we'll get those too. But let's keep talking about love. Let's keep loving ourselves and let's keep loving each other because Black love is revolutionary. I love you. I want you to have this. I want you to have this love. Okay? Accept it. It's yours. All right. Before I get out of here, I want to give some shout outs for good ish. Not a lot to say today on this. A lot to say, and then not a whole bunch of specific individuals I'm calling out, I guess I should say, because there is a lot here. I want to give a shout out to people who are still making it and staying true. There's a lot of us that are living but ain't making it. Let that sink in. There's a lot of us who are living but ain't making it. And I want us to make it. So I'm shouting out those who are still making it and staying true to yourself, to the cause, to the life, to the, the struggle, whatever. I appreciate you. Thank you. Because there's a responsibility that we have to continue to push ourselves forward, but then also the opportunity that we have to help out others and bring them along, especially those who ain't making it right now. And there's a lot of people who aren't. So, and there's a lot of people who are struggling. Shit, life is a lot on any given day, and extra because it's COVID and, pick a thing. So shout out to y'all. Shout out to the truth tellers. Again, we talk about the war on Blackness and certainly the war on truth. There is an absolute war on truth. One of the key indicators for me when I start hearing people talk about your truth, my truth, I am leery of any of y'all people who speak that way, because there's one truth, one, only one truth. There are different perspectives, there are different opinions about what that one truth is, right? Your vantage point and what happened over here, what I saw was, but there was one truth about what actually happened. So I want to shout out to the truth tellers, those who are laser focused throughout this war on truth, and all the spin and the distractions that come. Please stay strong. It's hard to do. Not only to be aware of truth, but also to continue to tell the truth. We need to continue to tell the truth. Don't lie to you, because if you lie to you, you make it easier for other people to lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you because I don't want nobody lying to me. Truth matters. So shout out to the truth tellers. I want to send a happy early happy Mother's Day to all of the moms, aunties, grandmas, sisters, all the women who have given village love to our community and to me. Thank you. I appreciate you. Keep it up. We need all of that. And there are a lot of people who mother on people who may not even have biologicals of their own. Thank you for mothering on us women. I love you. I appreciate y'all. Please continue to do so. And I'm saying this early because am I going to be here next week? No, it's my baby's birthday weekend in addition to it being Mother's Day, and I'm going to be out. This is also my love month. So I'm taking some time to love on me all month long, and I am looking forward to it. So I will be back with you first Sunday in June, which is the 6th. But in the meantime, I'm here. I'm not going to be doing this show, taking time for my love month to love me. And I get real creative in May and write and do a whole bunch of stuff. So I need to focus on that, but I'm still here. So you can still reach out. You can email me, you can DM me, you can call me, you can write me, you can do whatever, to reach out. I'm still here. And if y'all are in need, especially of love, because I got that in ample supply, holla at your girl. But I also want to thank you for continuing to support the Just Chamia Show, for continuing to support the telling of the truth and love and the spreading of Black love. Thank y'all, because you don't have to, but you are. So thank you. Yeah, I guess that's it. I done went through my list. Thank you for the happy birthdays early for my baby. I appreciate that. And for all the hearts and love. I appreciate y'all, fam. And I will see you next time. Until then, be blessed. Be a blessing. I love you. Keep spreading love. Right.